Welcome to Pamba Resolute 2020. Pamba is an organization that is for and by private Ayurvedic doctors. And as General Secretary, it is my duty to ensure that such activities are promoted that benefit our members and the Ayurveda community as a whole. As the name suggests, we are determined to overcome all hurdles and sharpen our minds. Pamba Resolute 2020 is a program developed by Pamba aimed for the Ayurvedic community. We are here to bring a source of continuous learning to the field of Ayurveda. We believe in positive learning with a positive attitude. For an experienced doctor, this is a place where they can refresh their memories. For a new physician, this is a place where they can reinvent themselves. For every one of us, this is a place where we can relive the glorious days where knowledge, the thirst for knowledge was genuine. Let me call upon our president, Dr. Krishnadas P, for his words. Sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Shyam Mohan. Dear doctors, Pamba is always with you for your support and guidance. We are duty-bound to cultivate a positive culture and steady growth among our members. It is our vision that Ayurveda becomes a global medicinal discipline. Let us prepare ourselves for that inevitable future. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Our treasurer, Dr. P.K. Suresh, say your words.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Shyam. Good evening, dear friends and doctors. The motive behind these classes is to build confidence and the right attitude in clinical practice. I am sure that beginners as well as experienced doctors will cherish this always. Thank you. Thank you very much. And warm welcome our guest, Dr. Rahul R. Nair. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. It is important for us to bring these classes at the lowest of the cost to the participants, and sponsors are our way of doing this. We thank Amridam Hospital at Perindalmanna and Ameya Hospital at Pattambi for helping us with this mission. Thank you, Amridam, and thank you, Ameya. So before we start, few basic etiquettes of this class. Just before, as I informed you, let us stick to the topic alone. If you want to discuss cases, I will give you the number of the speaker and you can contact him or her later, and you can discuss the case with them. Okay. All questions are to be posted in the chat and we shall go through them once the class is over. For best ability, use a laptop and a high-speed net connection. If your video is on, please make sure you are in front of a professional background. In case of any disruption, kindly check your network connection and wait patiently for the class to resume. You may raise your hand if you have a question to ask after the presentation. Make sure you have your full name displayed so it is more professional. With that, let us come to the speaker of the day and my friend, Dr. Rahul R. Nair. Doctor, hello.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. You can start, sir. I'll start sharing the slide. 1 second.
Sir, slides, please. Okay. Come to next slide, sir. Next slide. So, good afternoon, one and all. My respected pranams to the senior doctors who are here. Dr. Vinod Krishnan sir, Dr. Krishnadas sir, Dr. Suresh sir, and I can see some more doctors like Dr. Prabhu Rajan and some other senior doctors are all there. And also, I am very much happy that Dr. Shyam Mohan has told me after the previous session that these sessions are being very helpful for the young doctors, the budding doctors who are there to start their clinical practice. So I'm very happy for that, because as a teacher of Roga Nidanam, I feel that my humble presentations are becoming useful for those who are entering into the field. That is the basic intention of what I am presenting here. So, before entering into my topic, let me congratulate the organizers of this Pamba Resolution as well as Pamba Focus. Both these programs have now become what to say. They are actually the flagships of all the webinars that have started in Kerala. And I will congratulate the top brass of Pamba for this. And also, along with that, my special congratulations to its General Secretary, Dr. Shyam Mohan, who is always having a very dedicated surgical focus to all of the things he used to operate. So, in this session also, I have got no, no wonder that this series of presentations are going in a very professional manner. And moreover, talking towards the Pamba focus, so it has been a very carefully dedicated program exclusive for the Samhitas, and all the classes have become very useful for me also. So let me enter into my topic. Today, the third of the series, I want to enter into the most common of the two presentations. In the previous two sessions, we have gone through low back pain as well as neck pain, and now comes the knee pain. The knee pain, which presents to us many a time, especially for a beginner, in a budding practitioner who opens a clinic anywhere in India. Many of the first consultation will be for knee pain. The patients will be coming to you for knee pain. So that's why it is becoming much more important nowadays to manage knee pain well, because many a time, if you manage the first initial consultations, initial patients very well, then only the patients will come to you with the higher presentations, some rarer presentations, or those presentations which need an aggressive management. So the initial, we used to say the first impression is the best impression. So management of knee pain, even though we cannot cure all the knee pain, we can manage it very well. So the next slide, sir. So the very common presentations of knee pain, people, suppose a person, a middle-aged lady coming to you with the pain, especially on the medial side of the knee, pain on climbing steps, walking as well as squatting, pain with or without a swelling. It's very important. Your initial look, your initial inspection to that knee should point towards identification of any swelling there. And sometimes the pain radiates down or to the popliteal fossa. Sometimes the patient tells that there is a pain in the shin. There's a pain in the shin. They start presenting like that, and actually the problem will be lying in the knee joint. And many times the patients will be telling there is a pain in the knee which is radiating back towards the popliteal fossa also, and I feel more pain in the popliteal fossa while walking as well as squatting, etc. So all these are very common presentations regarding the knee joint. The next slide, sir. There are some uncommon presentations also. While we are very much after practicing on the knee joint pains, especially regarding osteoarthritis of knee joint, it happens to us that sometimes some patient will come to you with some uncommon presentation. So you should be always watchful whether the presentation is some very common presentation or an uncommon presentation. See, many a time the acute pain of knee, that is the patient coming to you with a pain which started 1 or 2 days back, that should gather more importance to you. That shall crave for more attention from you, your part. So such a presentation I am going to describe, that is an acute onset pain after a shearing strain on the knee. Somebody is getting into a bus. The bus suddenly started off very fast. So what will happen? The person climbing into the bus and the bus suddenly taking off. So it will result in sudden shearing strain on the knee joint, mostly resulting in meniscal tears. And there should be some other presentation called an acute onset with feverishness. Patient is coming to you. He will not be telling you that he is having a feverishness. He is telling since 2 days I am having pain, tenderness, some type of redness, some local rise of temperature, a tight swelling is seen in the knee, etc. And if the patient is also presenting with the feverishness, and if this one important point I have missed to write here is mostly it will be unilateral, a single joint presentation. Just pay an attention whether it is septic arthropathy or not. We know that our joint is a very closed space. It is very much immune to all organisms. And if by chance some organism get inside the knee joint, there will be a fulminant inflammation happens, and that can result in septic arthritis, very dangerous, can result in total knee destruction within days. So that's an uncommon presentation. So be watchful whether it is unilateral, whether there is a tight swelling, whether there is some rise of temperature, whether the patient is having some feverishness or not. and some other ligamental injuries. For that, I'm not an expert at all for speaking about the ligamental injuries, because those will be dealt more commonly by the Shalyatantra fraternity, and there will be an acute onset pain with a tenderness mostly localized to one side, and there will be some pointing elements in the history that lead to some trauma, some football playing or some other incidents which happened to create such a very big force on the knee joint that resulted, or some trauma happened to knee joint that might result in ligamental injury. So while practicing, you should be, my point is, while practicing, you should be careful. If an acute presentation comes, don't think simply. It may be a meniscal tear or a septic arthritis or ligamental injury. Next slide, sir. So what is our usual, in while dealing with usual cases, what should be our steps? As I have told you earlier, all the budding practitioners make your prescription pad very big. So it's my gentle recommendation to you that don't print a very small prescription pad. It will not work for you, especially you being an Ayurvedist. Somewhat big letterhead you have to make and record the presenting complaint in detail in that. What this patient exactly telling you. For us, what the patient told is very important. For us Ayurvedists, what the patient told is very, very important. If he is saying he has got a knee pain so many years back, and if you look at the knee, you can see it has become deformed. So suddenly it gives us an impression that there is a predominance of Vata there. So what the patient, we are always, as we have been trained, darsanas parsana prasnehi parisheda charoginam. We are always trained to look, see, and to palpate. Look, see, and to interrogate what the patient is telling to us. So for that purpose, you have to record all those complaints in detail. The history is very, very important for us. So spend some time for history taking, and in the history taking, be sure whether it is an acute onset or whether it is gradual onset. So I want to make it very clear. Everybody knows what is acute, what is gradual. Usual osteoarthritis knee presentation, patient cannot tell the exact date of onset. If it is a very acute onset knee pain or a sudden onset knee pain, the patient can exactly tell what happened 2 days back, what happened 3 days back, etc. So if the patient says it caused very gradually, it came up very gradually, it can be very quite clear that it is something related to degenerative arthropathy. And then the next slide, sir. Beware of meniscal tears and ligamental injuries. Okay, next slide. So second step is examination. So in all of your clinical practice, make it a habit to examine. Never write a prescription without examining the patient. 2 days back, I was listening to Mahadevan Sah's presentation, and in that he was very specific to tell that every patient needs to be examined. So you should examine the patient for swelling, for crepitus, for rise of temperature, for range of movements. All these factors are very important from the viewpoint of this knee joint examination. So swelling, crepitus, rise of temperature, and range of movements. Next slide, sir. So in the second step, there is an important part. So if you ask me, what is an important test? What is a cardinal test for an Ayurvedist in diagnosing or managing the knee pain? I will tell it is patellar tap test. Patellar tap test, all of you will be familiar, but most probably it will not be coming into your clinical practice regularly. So make it a practice to do the patellar tap test often. So if the patellar tap test is found to be positive, it denotes an effusion, or you have to distinguish whether it is an effusion, a clear-cut effusion, or is it a mild swelling only. So in order to differentiate between effusion as well as a mild swelling, patellar tap test will be very useful for you. Next slide, sir. See how it is being done. You can see you will be milking down the knee joint, milking from the proximal area to distal area of the leg, and when without raising your hand, keeping it in a milking position, you are tapping on the knee. So if you see, if you feel the patella, as floating, a floating habit of patella. See, usually the patella will not be floating inside, but if you felt patella is floating like an ice cube in water, you can be very quite sure that there is an effusion. So it's a very remarkable test. Why it is very cardinal, I will tell you in the coming slides. It's very important to do patella tap test in every patient who come to you with a knee pain. Next slide, sir. Then the next slide, I will be telling you to investigate if you want. So I underline for knee joint complaints. If you are quite sure that a postmenopausal lady coming to you with a varus deformity of knee, and if she is obese, she tells about knee pain, there is no point in taking a knee joint X-ray because you are very quite sure that it's mostly an osteoarthritis of knee. But if somebody wants to have an academic opinion, very sure short opinion that it is knee joint osteoarthritis. So it's gold standard knee joint osteoarthritis investigation is just knee joint simple X-ray. And if you want to assess the soft tissue status, it's better to go for MRI. So it's a gold standard for meniscal tears and other soft tissue injuries. So in that pattern, you have to investigate. From my point of view, if you are going to manage the simple osteoarthritis of knee joint, there is no point, there is not much value to take an X-ray and showing it to patient. But if you want to convince the patient, you can take one. That's all. Next slide. So what is our analysis? Coming to our methods, our clinical methods, what's our standpoint on this knee pain? We know that knee is a sandhi. Knee joint is it's a joint, it's a sandhi. Sandhi is a kapasthanam. There is a shleshaka kapham residing there, which creates the oscillation of both bones there. Both bones are being placed there in such a way that if you rub an ice cube together, you feel some friction. If you rub an ice cube together, you feel some friction, and it is 40 times more easier for two bones to coexist in the knee joint. See how important is the presence of kapha there. It is told that it is stated in many well-known medical textbooks that it's 40 times more easier for two bones to come together and form the joint inside the knee than rubbing two ice cubes together. So much frictionless inside, so much lubricated, so much stabilized. I will tell you, so much stabilized. So the knee joint, even though it is having much reduced stability when compared to hip joint, it is also a very stable joint. It bears most of the weight. So the weight bearing happens through a kapasthanam here, and the pain there indicates the presence of vada. So vada vritti happening in kapasthanam, and we used to diagnose it as sandhigata vada, isn't it? We have been trained it like that. If you are getting a patient with a knee joint pain in the examination, in the practical examination, we will be very happy. Simple, straightforward diagnosis, sandhigata vada. The vada which has gone entered into the sandhi doesn't mean absence of kapha. See, this point is very relevant because many a time we feel sandhigata vadam, etc. We are always fed that it's a vada, it's only a vada based disease alone. But you should recognize that sandhigata vada doesn't mean there is an absence of kapha, because the sthanika dosha is kapha and agantuja dosha is vada. So vada coming to a kaphasthana, necessarily it will create some increase of kapha in the initial part, and thereafter only it will dry it up. So as per our principles, if the knee joint pain has been there for the patient in the initial period we are getting the patient, you should suspect that there is some involvement of kapha also. So there is a very one powerful slogan everybody might have learned: Belitvad Ashukaritvad Vibhutvad Anyakopanat Swadandriyat Bahurogat Doshanam Prabalo Analaha. Why Vayu is considered eternally very much powerful dosha? Why? Because it is having a property to initiate the pathologies of the sthanika dosha which is residing somewhere. If vada is coming to some place as an agantu dosha, it is having a property to initiate the pathologies of sthanika dosha also there. So here also in the initial period, you have to suspect the presence of kapha there. So in the acute phase, you have to give kaphavada hara aushadha. What I am telling, the patient has not been having knee joint for a long period. If he is coming to you telling that I have got a starting of knee joint now, knee joint pain now, you have to give kaphavada hara aushadha. And if it is a very chronic knee joint pain, see, 10 years the patient is having chronic knee joint pain, definitely you can start vadahara aushadhas. So where to place vadahara aushadha, where to place kaphavadahara aushadha, it depends upon the chronicity of illness. One point, chronicity of illness. So depending on the chronicity and also on your critical examination of the knee, you have to be convinced that some aggravation of kapha is there. You have to find out the aggravation of kapha there, and then you have to provide the aushadha. Next one. So the fourth step is certain key questions you have to ask here. Is there any swelling? Whether patellar tap is positive? What is the disease severity? See, the patients will be coming to you telling that patients will be coming to you telling that there is the knee joint pain has just started now. Somebody will be coming to you and telling that they can't even climb the steps to reach the upper floor of the house. So the disease severity differs. So depending on the disease severity, you have to operate. And any anubandha dosha kova is also very important. See, I have told about the anubandha dosha kova of kapha there. So identifying the anubandha dosha kova is also very important. Now I have seen a question coming in the chat box that the synovitis, which happens in the rheumatoid arthritis spectrum, the Vadarakta spectrum. So how it can be treated? It's a different area. See, it's a different area. That should be managed in line by incorporating the principles of Vadarakta Chikitsa also there. So you have to differentiate that also. That question came before, that we have assessed the knee joint by examining it with respect to swelling, rise of temperature, tenderness, etc. So if you see tenderness, rise of temperature, there is a swelling, definitely you have to initiate the treatment of Vadarakta. That's in a different spectrum. So the next slide, sir. Next slide, sir. Then coming to the output. See, here the output of our examination, output of our questions. See, chronic knee joint pain with a marked swelling, patellar tap positive with no inflammatory signs. I am telling you a clinical situation. See, suppose you have got such a patient with a chronic knee joint pain with a marked swelling you have seen. When you examined, you found that there is patellar tap positive, but there is no inflammatory signs. See, there is no rise of temperature, no excessive tenderness, no color changes. So all these denote no inflammation. So if there is no inflammatory signs and if the patellar tap is positive and patient is having chronic knee joint pain, we have to infer that there is a chronic Vadadushti happened at Kaphasthanam, and in the Kaphasthanam there is Ruksha Guna Vriddhi, where Snigdha is needed. There is a Ruksha Guna Vriddhi inside the knee joint, inside the Janusandhi, where there is normally the presence of Snigdha Guna. So Vada causes the joint space expansion here. You have to understand that when something is being caused by Vada, Vada will cause destruction, opening up of the spaces, etc. We have been very well aware of, we have been taught about the different karmas of Vada, Vaigrada karmas of Vada, that is Ramsa, Vyasa, Vedha, Swabha, Sadhara, Krodha, Bhedanam, etc. See, we have seen that Vyasam, Vyasanam or expansion is a destructive expansion of an area, is an important quality of Vada, and Vada here causes an expansion of the joint space in a deformity manner, deformity level. It's not good for the body. And there is secondary kapha vitiation. There is secondary vitiation of kapha because of the presence of Vada in the kaphasthana, and you will get an effusion or shobham. That's why the patellar tap has become positive. So by understanding in such a way, you are examining. See, I am telling you that we have learned a lot of clinical methods in one area under the heading of Rogamidana. Then you go to, when to study in the higher clinical classes as Kaya Chikitsa, Shalyatantram, etc. And thereafter you are coming into house rensi, then coming out of the college. So what happens is that you are not exposed to a vertical teaching. That's what is not happening in Ayurveda colleges. Why? Because if vertical teaching happens only, you will integrate all that you have learned. And before learning these clinical methods, you have learned the clinical anatomy of the Janu Sandhi being a marma. And also, as in a modern point of view, you have extended and you have got extensive knowledge of the knee joint with regard to the study of anatomy, also in the practical way or by doing the dissection. And that knowledge, right from the first year up to the final year, needs to be integrated in the house currency, and that's not what is actively happening in the course period. That's why sometimes we are not integrating all these things together. So that's why I'm telling you have been taught to do patellar tap test. If you have learned patellar tap test, you have to utilize the knowledge of patellar tap test in clinics, and that's why if you understand to do patellar tap test, you have to infer that if patellar tap is positive, you have to infer that there is an extended joint space inside. There is a secondary vitiation of kapha happened here because of the presence of vada in kaphasthana, and that's why there is a swelling. And here you have to diagnose that there is a predominant vada dosha along with associated kapha pradhana dosha kopa. So in that way, you can create an output of all these examinations. Next slide. See, one question came, Ruksha Guna Vriddhi, where Snitha is needed. It's not clear. I will explain. See, inside the knee joint, Janu Sandhi, there is Snithatvam, isn't it? There is, it's the site of Kapha. And inside the Janu Sandhi, now what has created? Vada has reached there. You are explaining the term as Sandhi Gada Vada. Vada has reached into the Sandhi. So inside the Sandhi, what will happen? Vada is coming with the Ruksha Guna. The Snigdha Guna has decreased. That's why Vada entered there. So after entering also, it will progressively decrease. Vada will progressively decrease already existing Snigdha Guna. So inside the joint, what will happen? The Snigdha Guna is progressively getting depleted, and outside, you can see in that area, there is Vyasa, there is destructive expansion of joint space, and there is abnormal accumulation of some fluid, which we will consider as the secondary effect of Vada dosha. So in that way, you have to understand. And here, we are placing the pathological summary will be some, if you are asked to write an impression, as that we have seen in the case of ultrasound report, etc., you are writing a pathological impression that there is a Vada Kapha Dushti, Samavastha is there, Shobha is there, Srodho Vaigunya is there, and if you got all these reports together, you have to check the Agni status and Abhana Vada status of the patient. As always you have to check both these factors because it is an axis. Many a time it has been stated that there is an axis in the human body called the Prana Agni Abhana axis. You might be seeing this term collectively in the case of Udara, Prana Agni Abhana and Sandushya. There is an axis like that. If Abhana is vitiated, if Agni is vitiated, before reaching long time, definitely your prana will be affected. It is seen in cases like that. So there is this axis, and we Ayurvedists are very good experts in operating on this axis and correcting it for the first time. So before initiating the treatment, check the Agni status and Abhana Vada, Anuloma status of the patient. Next slide, sir. So finally, we have reached into the diagnosis called Sandhigata Vada. I am very pretty sure that by simply stating some term diagnosis, mostly we see in Western medicine terms or in modern clinical methods, we are taught to reach into some term diagnosis. Finally, you have to enter and you have to tell that this is a case of rheumatoid arthritis, not rheumatic fever. You have to state that this is osteoarthritis, not septic arthritis, like that. But for us, diagnosing simply in terms is not giving you any good at all. We need to have the diagnosis in a, together a holistic diagnosis. So the diagnostic terms should be studied very well so that it will open up new avenues for management. See, here the term is Sandhigata Vada. Gada means getting localized. So my question is, who is getting localized, where and why? The answer for who is getting localized is simple. It's Vada, where it is Sandhi, and why it is due to some nidana related to sandhi. See, if the sandhi is very much intact, it's healthy, it is being supported, nourished very well, there is no question that vada will enter into the sandhi. See, in all, you will be familiar with the term Gadavadam. See, Rakta Gadavadam, Mamsa Gadavadam, etc. And finally, Acharya is saying Sandhi Gadavadam. Some type of Vada Gopa that has localized in a Kapasthana called Sandhi. Why this localization happens? Because of some certain causative factors related to Sandhi, not due to Vada. Here, there are some causative factors like the patient is a hard working laborer. Second, if the patient is very much sedentary and obese person, both of these can cause some type of reduction in the smigtatva factor or kapha factor inside the sandhi. What that will invite vada to come into the sandhi. That I am trying to explain to you that if the sandhi is very much intact, healthy, nothing will happen. If something happens to sandhi because of the misuse, if you are not properly nourishing it, you are getting obese, you are getting sedentary, or you are a hard-working laborer, what will happen? The sandhi will become overloaded. There will be gradual depletion of kapha status inside, and that will result in the invitation for vada to come to sandhi and to get localized there. So when sthana samsraya of vada happens in the sandhi, which is a kapha sthana, we will tell Sandhi Gadavadam has happened. So the term Sandhi Gadavadam is actually all these terms, Gadavadam or Avradavadam, etc. All these terms are representing pathological diagnosis. I want to introduce the two terms, pathological diagnosis and clinical diagnosis here. The term pathological diagnosis means you are telling about some process happening inside. See, Sandhi Gadavadam, because of some factor, kapha got depleted inside the sandhi, that invited vada. Now vada is getting localized. This process is known as sandhigata vada. And osteoarthritis knee is one disease condition. It's a clinical term. Osteoarthritis knee is a clinical condition. I will try to distinguish it by giving you a good example. The term cirrhosis, you all heard. Cirrhosis, if somebody tell you a patient is having cirrhosis, your next question, what is his disease? He might be having an alcoholic cirrhosis, or he might be having a non-alcoholic fatty liver induced cirrhosis. He may be having infective cirrhosis. So cirrhosis, the term cirrhosis will tell you that the patient is having a process happening in the liver by which his soft liver is now getting converted to a nodular hard pattern. By telling it is cirrhosis, we are meaning that his liver is getting transformed into a very hard tissue only. So what is the cause? It's a clinical diagnosis. Likewise, here we are telling about a pathological diagnosis called a Sandhigata Vadam, wherein the Vadam is getting localized. So due to some factors, Sandhi becoming a favorite site for residents of Vada. Next slide, sir. So our tricks of trade are like this. During the time of clinical teaching or examination, you might have gone through step by step, but now you can operate directly. So what I'm telling is, if the patellar tap is found to be triple positive, see, the patella is freely floating inside, you can suggest that there is Vada plus Kapha triple plus. And if patellar tap is very mild, you are feeling that there is only a very mild effusion, a very mild swelling only, you can grade it as Vada plus Kapha plus. See, depending on that, you can select. See, in my clinical practice, what I found that if the patellar tap is heavily positive, if there is a very heavy effusion present, in the initial phase, it is better to go for Ubanaha Svedam. If the patellar tap is plus only, it is having mild effusion, if it is Vada Kapha status, it's very good for going only for Lebanon. So the degree of swelling will dictate what is the treatment. The degree of swelling is going to dictate the procedure there. So what I'm telling is, by doing patellar tap, you can come to a conclusion what to do. See, if it is triple plus, it's better to go for Ubanaham. If it is single plus, it is better to go for Lebanon. See, Ubanaham is something which you can advise for the patient in two ways. In one way, it can be done as a daycare procedure. In the second way, it can be done in the household too. So you can, if you are an OP level practitioner, don't hesitate to advise the patient with Upanaham. Study the process of Upanaham well. See, Upanaham should be having many components. One Leba Churna will be there, one Dravadravya will be there, one Amla Dravya will be there, Saindavam will be there. These are mixed together and heated together as a paste, and you can, this paste can be bandaged in the sandhi and to be tied there, to be placed there for 12 hours and then removed. You all know that. So this Upanaham or Lebanam can be selected by using this technique. Next slide, sir. And the procedures. What is a therapeutic intent? Before deciding every procedure, every medication, just plan what is my intent. So here the intent is Sobhaharatvam, Vadaharatvam, Vedana Samana. These are all our therapeutic intent which is needed. In OP level practice, I will say the first point should be Vedana Samana. The patient should get results 1 or 2 days after the initial visit to the doctor. That's very, very important. All the budding doctors, please keep it in your mind that whatever theory we can tell, but the patient should get results. So within 2 days, the patient should start getting results. So Vedana Samana is an important profile in our mind. Next slide, sir. So in the initial phase, I will advise you, if you selected Upanaham, it can be with the Kotanjukkadi or Grihadumadi or Jadamayadi, by looking into the Doshik predominance. See, it is very heavy effusion. It's good to go for Kotanjukkadi, then Grihadumadi. If some you are suspecting any previous traumatic condition or something like that, it's good to go for Nagaradi. And if some Pittanubandhitvam, never hesitate to go for Jadamayadi. In case of Pittanubandhitvam, if you are doing with the Kotanjukkadi, that may give rise to the fulmination of that Pitta. So don't try with that. Kotanjukkadi itself is very much irritant. So consider the status of Pitta before prescription. And if go for Lebanam with the same drugs, if mild swelling only. And in the initial period, I will not be advising any thaila application initially. Instead, I will suggest some liniment or oil application or ointment application. So I will not be going for oil application in the initial period, suspecting any simple presence of ama. I'm not telling if there is so much ama there, but if there is even a very minute presence of ama there, I am fearing that. So I will not be going for any overt thaila application. Instead, I will advise liniment application. Next one. And when the swelling subsides, see, as the treatment progresses, you can see that the swelling is subsiding. After 1 week, the patient will be coming to you and telling that the swelling is subsided. Now I am having severe pain. So assume the status has changed. Vada double plus, Kapha plus only. Now it's a time to start Abhyanga. See, a physician who knows where to stop one treatment, where to start another treatment. That's one who perceives the Vyadhi Avastha. He is the best one. See, this will become especially important in cases of dermatology. If you are dealing with a case of atopic eczema, see, somebody came to you with a weeping, oozing ulcer. So you will be doing Trifalakshalana. And continuously you are doing that for 2 weeks. It got dried up, very much dried up. So what will happen? This dried up lesion will stretch the skin there, and it will start again itching. The patient will start to again scrubbing that particular area. Again, it will lead to an ulcer. So the point where you have to apply the oil is to be understood very well. You have to trace the patient, and you have to assume that after every repeat visit, you have to do repeated examination on the patient, and you have to record it in your case sheet and assume that it is Vada double plus, Kapha plus, start Abhyanga. And you can ask in ligamental injury, meniscal tear, etc. You can follow the same procedure initially, followed by, instead of Abhyangam, I got good results with the Segam, with the Dhanyamlam first, later by using Thaila. See, I have told you earlier that the management of meniscal tear, ligamental injury, etc. is somewhat different, because after Segam you have to do Bandhanam, etc. So it's more pertaining to Shatitantra, so I'm not going detail there. But while you're managing the very common osteoarthritis knee joint, when the swelling subsides, you have to assume it's a time to start upping them. Next slide, sir. Next slide. So the Leva Churna I have already told, the Kotanjukadi, Jadamayadi, Grahadumadi, Nagaradi or Manikundrikadi for Abhigadam. Already I have told the details. Next slide, sir. And so in the initial phase, what will be our internal medications? So I will suggest a Gugulu combination here. Why? Because Vedana Samanatham is our priority. So there is a Rasna Saptangam Kashayam, along with there is Gugulu is there. If you add together, there is one tablet called Osticot. I will advise it, Osticot. Why? Because it is giving you result. If Pittani Bandhitam is there, shift it to Bela Guluchiadi. Bela is there. It is what to say? It is Bela is Belia itself. It's Belia, Sangrahaniya, etc. drug. Guluji is there. Pitta Rakta Shamana is there. And usually Bela, Guluji and Devadaru is present in that combination. So Devadaru is good Pajana Drivya. And if Gugulu is added to it, you will get a combination called Rukot. I think that you all are familiar with these tablets. And if Agni is proper and if sufficient Amapajana has happened in Sandhi, in the second phase, I will suggest for Gugulu Diktam Kashayam. See, before writing Gugulu Diktam Kashayam, you should be quite sure that the patient's Agni status is good, because it's a very big yoga. If you're giving, I have got many experience that many a time if I see Sandhyasti Majjagadam Vadam, Gugulu Diktam is best for that. Simply by looking into that property, if you advise Gugulu Diktam Kashayam without looking into the Agni status of the patient, what will happen? The Agni will be harmed, Ama will develop, and the knee joint pain will usually increase. So it happened in my experience many times. That's why I'm telling that if you are preferring Gugulu Diktam Kashayam, you should be very quite sure that Amapajana has sufficiently happened in Sandhi, and if the patient's Agni Bela is good. And it is most preferred in Vada triple plus condition where pain is predominant, and if there is very little presence of Kapha or Ama in the Sandhi Pradesha. So you should be, when you study Gugulu Diktam Kashayam, you can understand that. You will naturally understand that it's a big yoga and you should be very careful on that. Next slide, sir. And then in the later stages, if there is a Pittani Bandhitvam, if the Pittani Bandhitvam was there in the initial period, even if Pittani Bandhitvam is not there, Rasne Randadi is a good choice. Along with that, GGT means Gugulu Diktam Grudam. I will advise Gugulu Diktam Grudam in the later phases. And Gandhadailam. See, Rasne Randadi is a yoga which gives you space to place Gugulu Diktam Grudam and Gandhadailam. See, Sarpis Taila Vimiswadam, Prasamed Vayum. It's present in the yoga itself. When you give Rasne Randadi, you have to give mixing it with the proper amount of Gruda and Taila. So, it's better to give Gugulu Diktam Grudam and Gandhadailam together, two combinations. See, some person came you with very frail persons coming to you with, not obese persons, very frail persons will be coming to you with this knee joint pain. And you feel that this particular person, mostly I will tell you, they are females. They are having some type of pitta involvement in their body. You see that this patient's vitamin D status is also very poor. You feel that she is very frail and thin. Some pitta involvement is there. Replace Gugulu Diktagam. You can add Tiktagam or Mahatiktagam to that if Agni status is good. See, if you want Kevala Pitta Shamana, Tiktagam is good for you. If you want an additional Rasayana property, Mahatiktagam is good for you. So you can substitute. Acharya has told that Sarpis Taila Vimishrada. So in the place of Sarpi, you can add Gugulu Diktagam, Tiktagam or Mahatiktagam, or you can even give Kariskaran Grudam. Kariskaran Grudam is also a good combination you can give. And in the place of Thailam, you can use Gandhadailam. And if in case of Vadaraktam, somebody has asked about Vadaraktam, how to manage. And in the case of Adaraktam, if you are placing Gasterandadi Kashayam, you can add Madhyashtiyadi Tailam or Pana along with this. So if Agni Bala is there. So I have written GGT and GT together, Gugulidiktam Gridam and Gandadailam together, or you can add singly also if Agni Bala is not suitable for that. So another option in the further later stages is to give Maharasnadi Kashayam, not much used by me, but in very frail cases, if the patient is having chronic knee pain, etc., you can opt for Maharasnadi Kashayam with Gandadailam. And there is a patent formulation, I will tell you, giving good results as a maintenance drug. Even after all these procedures, you can place it as a maintenance drug, is Zeotron capsule. It's nothing other than Dasamulam Kashayam extracted into Gandadailam. So it's giving good results, Zeotron camps. I am not advising some patent preparations here. I am writing patent preparation only because it is giving good results as a maintenance therapy. So in the maintenance phase, you can be sure that you will be giving single capsule of Zeotron daily plus Thaila Abdinga, plus regular Thaila Abdinga. See, some patient visited you with knee joint pain. He is going to a middle age, crossed his middle age. You should teach him in your daily routine lifestyle, apply Thaila regularly in your knee joint. So it will become a practice for him. And next slide, sir. I will tell the details of Thaila also. See, maintenance medication, maintain Abhyantara Snehanam, either by using Gugulidiktam Gridam or Gandadailam or Zeotron capsule. Then maintain daily Abhyangam. Manage in between relapses by Upanaham or Lemon. Sometimes it happens. Sometimes a patient will come for review with a big knee. Mostly happens in females. They will tell some visitors came to their house. They stayed there for 2 days. I am having excess work, excess physical work. Then again the swelling happened in the knee joint. Manage for 2 or 3 days with Upanaham. It will subside. You can come back to maintenance medication very easily. And there are a lot of non-pharma advices you have to follow. Next slide, sir. And the Thailam sequence, I used to prefer Kotanchukadi and Murivanda in the initial phases. Then I have got one choice. In the later phases, if there is Vada alone predominant, I will go for the Dhanandaran Thailam, as all of you know. But the reverse will not be working for you. I am very quite sure of that. If somebody is coming to you with some mild swelling, you are diagnosed it as Vada double plus, Kapha plus, pain is there, you advise them to apply for Dhanandaran Thailam. Many a time I got very bad results. Dhanandaran Thailam is not good to apply in the initial phase. Initial phase, you have to give some Ushmavirya Pradhana Thailas. Ushmavirya Pradhana Thaila. When compared to Dhanandaran Thailam, Kotanchukadi and Murivanna are very much Ushmavirya. So that will serve the purpose in the initial phases if Ama phase is predominant. See, a little bit Kabhanibanda is there, the Dhanandaran Thailam is not going to give you good research. Instead, if you got a very much deformed knee joint, a very typical varus deformed knee, you are getting, and you are very quite sure that there is no presence of Kapha there, you can directly go for Dhanandaran Thailam apply. Then Kedagi Muladi is also a good combination which can reduce the pain. I used to apply only after an initial application of Patanjali and Murivanna for Pajanam. And bandaging or Segam, they are different therapeutic benefits. See, especially I have noted that in my practice, I have got 2 or 3 experiences with the patient came with some meniscal tears. And in that patient, many a time I have tried with the bandaging, local Abhyanga, etc. I am not getting any result. I have initially asked the patient to apply Thailam, warm, hot, etc. Then I put Viju there, then I took bandage there, but not getting any result at all. But when I shifted that procedure with the same Thaila into Segam, I started getting therapeutic benefit. See, the pain started to subside, swelling started to subside. So you have to understand that Segam denotes. Segam is usually a type of, we used to practice Swedanam. We all consider it as Swedanam, Sneha Swedanam. And Segam is typically beneficial in the cases of some Pittana Bandhutva. So if Abhigada happened, wherever Abhigata happened, there will be some cryptic pitta. I will tell the term cryptic. The pitta is obscure. It's not coming to forefront. In such cases, if Abhigata happened, Acharya always tell that there is a pitta anubandha to vada. So in such cases, it's better to go for segam instead of bandaging. So in the case of Abhigata, after initial Amapajana, you can select Sega as a procedure for Thailam sequence. So I am telling apply Thaila as Sega in the case of Abhigata after initial Amapajana. So next one. Then some additional inquiries you can place. What is the background of this knee joint degeneration? See, there is no treatment without understanding the societal position of the patient. See, the patient is a middle-aged lady. She's doing all those household work, running into office, coming back, doing all the household activities. You have to understand what is the cause of this knee joint degeneration. Is it premature? Another important question. Nowadays, very much common, very common, premature knee joint pain. If the patient is very much sedentary, if the patient is obese, surely there is a premature onset of knee joint pain. And what is the lifestyle of the patient? Very important question. And another one, vitamin D deficiency with onset of osteoporosis. Very common now in our society, vitamin D deficiency. Now, see, in relation to COVID, there are a lot of discussions going on that those patients who are having more chances of getting acute respiratory distress syndrome, they are patients with vitamin D deficiency. Today also, Dr. Sashidharan sir, who is an emeritus professor of medicine in Kozhikode Medical College, he is having a wonderful article. He has now today written that those patients with vitamin D deficiency are having more prone to get into acute respiratory distress syndrome. So vitamin D deficiency is very much seen today in our community. Everyone, including I think most of all of the doctors who are practicing inside without doing any exercise are having vitamin D deficiency. So if vitamin D deficiency persists, that will result in osteoporosis. So early onset osteoporosis might be the cause of the knee joint pain. That should be taken care of. Next one. Next slide, sir. So the non-pharma advices are kneecap wearing to office, knee exercises. See, knee exercises is a very important thing. When to do knee exercises? It's another important point. Don't advise knee exercises till you have reached a maintenance medication phase. Only in the maintenance medication phase, you have to start the exercises. In my opinion, I am telling, some other people will be having some other opinion. I have heard that some doctors advise you have started having knee joint pain, stop all your exercises. Never do that. The patient is having a regular exercise, regular walking, advise him to stop that walking for a period of 2 weeks. Then you have to restart. Essentially, the patient should walk. Weight reduction is a must if needed. See, the age group of 45 to 50 in the case of females, I will say it is the golden period of a female's health, for the female's health. Why? Because if you are getting obese during that particular period, mostly in that particular period, the females will be going through all that sort. The children are becoming big. They are going to some other places. You have to invest more time for them, more time for exercise, more responsibilities coming up. So in that particular phase, there is a chance of ladies becoming more fatty, and if they are not giving proper reference to their health, they are not properly exercising, they are not controlling their weight, what will happen? This golden period will be destroyed, and once the perimenopausal period sets in, you will become a degenerated, destroyed, unprotected individual. So the weight reduction needs to be initiated at least 5 years before the perimenopausal period. Regular abhyangam and bandage, if necessary, should be done. Don't give any allowance to the patient that you shall apply the oil once in a week. Don't tell the patient like that. If you advise the patient to apply oil once in a week, he will apply once in a month. So tell the patient to apply every day. Consider the upper thigh and calf muscles regularly. See, while applying the oil, there is a usual problem happens is that the patients will apply the oil only around in and around the knee joint. So you have to strengthen the upper thigh and calf muscle. See, the joint has got weakened. This weakened knee joint will not be able to bear the weight as it is being done usually. So Instead, if you are supporting the thigh muscles and calf muscles with your oil and giving proper exercises, see, I am telling not only walking, proper squat exercises, hamstrings, quadriceps strengtheners, all those exercises needs to be properly advised to the patient to strengthen the muscles there. And the chappal use at home is a must. Some grammatical error happened there. Chappal use is a must at home. See, if you are flooring in the home, the patient's flooring in the home is a tile or a marble or granite or some smooth surface is there in the home. Necessarily, some studies are telling that there is an increased degeneration happen in the knee joint. There will be an augmented process of degeneration. Why? Because in the smooth surface, if you want to walk, you have to give more friction. Your knee joint should take more strain to properly place your feet and make you stabilized. So that if you use a simple rubber chappal, not complicated high health benefit chappal, no need for that. Simple rubber chappal use at home is a must if the patient is having knee joint. It will reduce the pain. I have seen without any drug itself, it will reduce the pain to some 10 to 20%. Next slide, sir. Next slide, sir. Okay. So this much about the knee joint pain. Now I am going to one interesting topic, another interesting topic. Usually coming to your OPD is recurrent upper respiratory infections in children. So you might be thinking why I am crisscrossing through all these systems. Because my intention is to talk about the usual diseases which are presented in a beginner's OPD. So usually the mother will be coming to brief the details about the child, and she will be telling about this underweight child. He will be having recurrent cough, fever, throat ache, etc. And she will be telling he is not having any appetite at all. Sometimes some accompanying worm infestation is there. And when you examine the patient, there is some hypopigmented patches also seen in and around his body. Usual presentation. The mother will be complaining, this child is not eating anything. He is getting a reduction in the weight, not properly getting developed. Likewise. The next slide, sir. See, I am showing you two pictures which are having some connection with regard to this recurrent upper respiratory infection in children. See, what happens is that the child is getting a fever. The feverish child is taken to some allopathic physician, or many a time it happens that the feverish child is taken to a medical shop, or the parent is going to some medical shop and telling that the child is having fever. And the medical shop man will be asking whether he is having cough, sore throat, if there is any difficulty to breathe, etc. And he himself will suggest the medication. See, there is an overuse of antibiotics, or an injudicious use of antibiotic is persisting in our community. All of you might be knowing that. So the child is taking a course of antibiotic, whether it will be amoxicillin or some other combination. And after taking a course of antibiotics, what will happen is that all the friendly flora of the gut, I am telling the term friendly flora, the usual needed microbiome, which is in the gut, is lost. See, antibiotic invariably kills all the organisms there, and now what will happen? The child is slowly getting cured. He came out of the cough, he came out of dyspnea, no fever at all, but his intestinal absorption, his intestinal microbiome, all these are destroyed now. Now the child is not taking enough food after this use of antibiotics. He is feeling some abdominal distension, sometimes constipation, etc. And what mother thinks is that she should nourish the child, and she will start with all those things, milk, egg, everything she can get, and she will feed the child and forcefully feed. I have seen many children are forcefully fed only to see that they are getting their immune system weakened. So what will happen to a child who is forcefully fed with all these nourishing substances, and if he is having no proper microbiome, or in our terms, no proper acne to digest that, it will result in AMA. In the next week itself, he is getting another upper respiratory infection. Now he is having cough, sore throat, rhinitis, etc. Again going to a doctor, again getting prescribed with some other variety of antibiotics. This cycle is continuing. See, this we have seen many a time in our clinical practice that the recurrent upper respiratory infection, the only permanent solution is to get in touch with an Ayurvedist. Only an Ayurvedist can clear it, nobody else. So recurrent use of, so when I tell recurrent upper respiratory infection in children, I will place the term recurrent injudicious use of antibiotic along with that. So this goes parallelly. Next slide, sir. So that's why I have put the two things together. So on examination, if such a child is coming to you, definitely you have to do the following: palpate the tonsils, search for cervical lymphadenopathy, auscultate the patient, presence of wheezing from multiple areas in chest fields. You have to be very carefully auscultate the patient, examine for the wheezing sounds. You should judge that the patient is mostly in Vata Kapha stage. If you are hearing wheezing, that definitely tell you that inside the bronchus, main bronchus, bronchioles, terminal bronchioles, etc., there is excess mucus is present and some bronchospasm is also there. That's why I have told you that the patient is mostly in a Vata Kapha stage, the Vata Kapha fever or Vata Kapha Kasa stage. And our interest is going to the spectrum of Punaravartaka Jwaram, the spectrum of Krimi, then Pandu, Kasa, Swasa, etc. We are focusing on this spectrum. See, my advice is to the beginners is to focus on this spectrum from our perspective. That is to focus on Punaravartaka Jwaram, Krimi, Pandu, Kasam, Swasa. See, here the Punaravartaka Jwaram happens to be the clinical presentation. The Krimi is the actual cause. Pandu, Kasa and Swasa are its output, or what to say, the Upadrava Rogas. So you have to quantify the AEC count, absolute eosinophil count of the patient. It throws an avenue also for you. See, simply not treating by using these principles, you can quantify. So in many of the cases, the patient will be having a raised absolute eosinophil count or raised immunoglobulin E levels. So all this from the examination part. Simply by doing this examination, you will be getting some inference regarding the patient status. Next one. So why Punaravartaka Jwaram? This is a question. See, the child is emaciated. He is mostly in a convalescent phase itself. So many a time you will be getting child in a convalescent phase. 4 or 5 episodes of fever has completed. Now the mother is bringing you to Ayurvedic person, and we are seeing the child in a convalescent phase. And now itself she has started to overfeed the child. And irregular high calorie food pattern is given to the patient. And many a time such children will be sedentary. My observation, many a time the child is not allowed to get out of the house, fearing that again he will be getting some infection. So mostly he will be pushed to some corner of the house by giving some type of tablets or some mobile phones running on video games. So one slogam is getting coming forefront when you read this description. That is Krishanam Vyadi Muktanam Mithyaharadi Sevinam Alpobi Dosho Dushyadir Lepto Anya Damadobela. In Ashtanga Hridayam, this slogam is pertaining to the Vishama Jwaram, and in Charaka Samhita it points to the term called the Punaravartaka Jwaram, repeated Jwaram happening to the body. Repeated Jwaram, Punaravartaka Jwaram. See, the term itself is very interesting. Puna and Avartaka. See, both are the same, isn't it? Puna means repeating, Avartaka means repeating. See, why Charaka used this term? Why? Because recurrent repetitions of Jwaram happen. Only because the patient's ojas or the immunity status or belam or saram, whatever, it is being destroyed. See, you can, when you speak about immunity, you can have different levels. See, in one level, in the dhatu level, you are speaking about the saram of the dhadus, dhatu saram. If the dhatu saram is good, you will be getting good ojas. The output of dhatu saram is ojas. So if you are having good ojas, what will happen? You are having good bela of the body, and if you are having good bela of the body, definitely your vyadhi kshamatam is also good. So these are all some parallel terms, that is saram, ojas, belam, vyadhi kshamatam. So all these factors, if work well, the disease will not happen. But if there is an instability, it will cause the recurrent attacks of disease. You might have heard a very powerful slogan called Pragradastu Balam Sleshma. See, our balam is the normalcy of kapha in the body. Because of the sedentary nature, because of the injudicious use of antibiotic, because of the irregular high calorie food pattern of all these causes, because of all these causes, there is an instability of kapha in the body of the child. So that causes recurrent attacks of amavastha in the body, and that leads to Agni Mandya, expulsion of Agni out into the Bahya Srotas, leading to onset of fever. So that's why I am telling that this patient is to be placed in the spectrum of Punaravartaka Jara. Next slide, sir. So the krimi, regarding the krimi, mostly when we are many a time when we are studying, we used to wonder why krimi is given so much importance in Ayurveda. It was such a period where the researchers regarding krimi was not coming to forefront, but fortunately now a lot of information is coming in the arena of intestinal microbiome. They say that there is a microclimate exists in our postum in relation to a microbiome. See, microbiome, I'm not telling about a microorganism. Instead, different species of microorganisms are harboring our gut, and they are serving us instead because of we are giving them some space to harbor. So a symbiotic relationship is being established between the microorganism and our gut, and now we are perplexed to see that a lot of functions in the gut is happening properly. Our metabolic processes are running properly. We are getting good nourishment properly only because of the presence of a favorable microbiome in our intestine. And what as an Ayurvedist, I will tell that this microbiome and good microclimate is existing. Why? Because it is because of the optimal functional status of Agni. Agni, if the Agni is not proper, this microbiome will be disrupted, and you will get an altered microbiome, and it will create some actions which will hamper the status of Agni again. So it happens vicious cycle. If Agni is hampered, microbiome is hampered. If the microbiome is hampered, Agni is more hampered. So it is a vicious aggravating cycle. So by when I tell you the term Agni, you have to be very clear that it is a complex of Samanavayu, Kleda Kapha and Pajaka Pitta. If you are taking more Drava, Snitha Pradhana Ahara, the Kekta Dravatva Swabhava of Pajaka Pitta is lost, the sharpness of Agni is lost. You are starting to get Agni Mandya. If you have got a persistent Abhanavada Pradilomia, what will happen? This will go up and it will affect the Samanavayu, and then the Samanavayu is affected. One another component of Agni is affected. See, now related to the Kapha, the Kleda Kapha, we are using excessively Snigdha Padartha, excessively oily foods, etc. What will happen? The Snigdha Bhava or the Kleda Bhava inside the Kleda Kapha is increased, and this will further hamper the presence of Pajaka Pitta. So if you are not getting a balance of Samanavayu, Pajaka Pitta and Kleda Kapha, you are hampering the output called Agni. So this relation is broken down. So if Agni is affected, the intestinal microclimate is also affected. And if the Agni is properly made robust by Dibana Bhajana medication, the intestinal microbiome will be re-established. So this is a very important point. The maintenance of intestinal microbiome is very, very important for our normal health. Recently, I got an opportunity to go into a seminar of neurologists. One of my friends invited there. And when I came there, one paper was there, the relationship between Parkinsonism and gut flora. See, Parkinsonism and gut flora, and while the discussion, they are telling that Ayurvedic people are having more knowledge regarding what happens inside the gut. See, our neuronal fibers are getting related to gut flora, and they are telling that we Ayurvedists are knowing more properly about what happens inside the gut rather than these neurons. So we are all coming together. What I feel that somebody will tell that allopathy is good, somebody other people will be telling that Ayurveda is good. Now I feel that we are all coming together to a common platform in addressing certain grave problems. So here the spectrum of Krimi is very, very useful in management of such clinical situations. Next slide, sir. So our approach is which I have stated earlier, the Punaravartaka Jwara is the presentation, Krimi is the diagnosis, and Pandu, Swasa, Kasa, Arits, Upadrava. See, the Pandu, Swasa and Kasa. The child will be presenting with pallor, he is having dyspnea, he is having severe cough. Next slide, sir. So our the most important watchword of Corona period is break the chain, isn't it? You have to break the chain by repeatedly washing the hands, sanitizing your hands, etc. Likewise, in the case of this child also, you have to break a chain. Which chain? The chain between the nourishing food, recurrent use of nourishing food, recurrent use of injudicious antibiotics. So my advice is, tell the mother that I will manage the next episode of fever. Don't go for even a paracetamol. So, or you can tell the only option for you if the temperature climbs above 101 degree Fahrenheit is to give simple paracetamol or simple paracetamol syrup. No other antibiotics, no other medications without my consent. This you have to tell the patient's mother. You have to tell her that together you can, together we can, you have to tell instead, together we can manage this. Give confidence to mother. So what will happen is, expect a night call. Give your phone number and you will expect a night call from the mother saying that the child is getting feverish. What to do, my dear doctor? So in advance, if you treat this patient in advance, one set of medicine should work for managing this condition of recurrent upper respiratory infection, which is being based as Punaravartaka Jwara or Krimi Chikitsa, etc. We have to use. Another set of medicine should be given for managing acute fever. Especially I will be giving Gobi Chandradi Guliga, Rasnadi Churnam for Talam. So Gobi Chandradi is a very safe drug which I used to get good benefits, and Rasnadi Churnam for Talam with this Panikur Kaila leaf or some symbol Jambiras Versa. So this you have to do, and you should expect a night call and you have to answer it. That's important point. You have to answer it at 2 o'clock in the morning to give Gobi Chandradi Guliga in honey. Every hourly you have to give or something like that, and you have to apply Tala. And again at 3 o'clock you will receive another call from the patient that the fever is not getting reduced. You have to advise sponging. You have to again place the Talam and you have to wake up in the night to manage. But manage it for one day. I am telling you, if you manage it for one single event, one single time, the mother will be confident. There is no need to go run to a medical shop or run to an allopathic physician to manage this child's fever. We can manage. And also you have broken the chain. You are not giving, you are not exposing the child's already depleted microbiome to another set of antibiotics, thereby saving the child. So you should be very brave in that. I am advising you, all the people, try it. Give your phone number, support that mother, try it for single time. And one more advantage, if the body's own defense mechanism assisted by Ayurveda is conquering the fever will not be coming back for next 3 or 4 weeks. I'm very sure for that. If you are conquering the fever in such a way, the body will be fighting back and body systems are energized. So it will not create any further fever sure for next 4 or 5 weeks. You are very sure for that. So the mother will be confident. Then you have to initiate Krimi Chikitsa, Jwara Chikitsa, Kasa Swasa Chikitsa, and finally Apapunarbhava Chikitsa. You have to make the dhadus excellent. You have to give the dhadu, give the medicine in such a way that the dhadus are excellent, and hence the kapha is in normal phase. The saram is good, ojas is good, belam is good, vyadhik shamatvam is good. So you have to do it in such a way. So even my take home message in this presentation is this one. You have to manage the fever of one single episode of such a child with upper respiratory infection, and the patient will be with you. Nothing. No, there is nothing to worry about that. Next one. Then I am going to Krimi-chikitsa. See what all medications are good in this phase. See, all these drugs I used to use, Nirgundyadi Kashayam, all these are Kashayas, Vidanga Krishnadi Kashayam, Vidal Veradi Kashayam, etc. And you will be asked what the child will drink the Kashayam. Yes, the children is drinking Kashayam, nothing to worry. There is a famous pediatric practitioner in our area called, you might be heard of, Gangadharan Vaidya. He is the chairman of my institution, and when I used to visit his home, I will see the patients, small children are brought to him, and the mothers will be telling the kashayams are not properly drunk by the child. He will scold the mother, and he will tell that you have to give it. You have to give it by giving some sita or honey along with that. So it depends upon your insistence. If you are insisting properly to the parent that you have to give this, there is no other remedy, the parent will be giving it and the child will be drinking it. I am very quite sure of that. If you are hesitant for 5%, the mother will be hesitant for 50% and child will be hesitant for 100%. Nothing will happen. So initiate that you have to drink this for first 2 weeks and select this medication. Then one wonderful combination everybody should practice is Rajanyadi Churnam and Krimiknavadi together at bedtime along with it mixed with the honey. It's a very good combination you can choose for. And if the patient is having very severe depression of appetite, is a child, it's very good to give Aravinda Asavam as a support. Aravinda Asavam will be working surely. The patient will have good Devana Pajanam by this medication. The next week, the patient will be reporting back to you telling that the child has started to eat something. Without scolding, without forcing, the child has started to eat something. He is slowly having some interest in food. That's a very good sign. So you have to initiate these kashayams, Nirgundyadi, Vidanga Krishnadi, any of these. I am telling it's a good choice, anything. So all these are Kabahara, Kapha stabilizing, Agni Vardhana, they are all Devana Vajana in their effects. So any of the three medications which I have suggested, Rajanyadi Churnam and Krimiknavadi is a must. And regarding Rajanyadi Churnam, it has been told that Devanam, Swasagasakna, Mudha See, it's a very important combination. Devanam, Swasagasakna, Mudha Vadanilomana, Devana, Swasagasakna, etc. So it will be working wonders with this child, and Aravinda Asavam will be working as a support. Next slide, sir. And when required Devana and Pajana is attained by this medication set, what I used to do is, sometimes I will be seeing that the patient start to show some hypersensitivity, mucosal hypersensitivity. Well, the child has initially presented you with a cough, with a productive cough. That means the mother is telling that there is typical running nose, and very few time he will be coughing and spitting out. Many time he will be drinking it back, and the child will be spitting out some yellowish colored pus. Such a stage has been cured by your initial medication, that first set of medication. And in the later phase, when all those Amavastha has been cured, then you are asked to give some medication which will not trigger hypersensitivity. What do you mean by hypersensitivity? If some infection happened, the mucosa will become hypersensitive. When the child is exposed to a single half glass of cold water, or if he is placed just below the fan, suddenly he will be having some throat irritation, he will be starting to cough. So in order to manage that phase, Brisol and Ceftlin is found to be very effective in that case. I'm not advocating such combos, but such thing is very effective in the practice that you will be needing to suppress the emerging hypersensitivity reaction. So Brisol is a syrup, Ceftlin you can available in syrup as well as tablet form. So I think Brisol is also available in tablet form. And if one more possibility I am telling that, even though you are using Nirgundyadi, Vidal Veradi, Vidanga Krishnadi, etc., even after 2 weeks, if you are not getting a good relief in the Amavastha, and still some Ama is persist, especially with regard to respiratory system, still the child is having running nose, Still he is expelling out some sputum which is having yellowish discoloration. The mother is suspecting. Sometimes in the evening he is getting some fever. Definitely opt for Vyakryadi Kashayam, Dashamula Gadatrayadi Kashayam, and you can give Talisapatradi Churnam repeatedly to the child mixed with honey, very small doses. See, that will be doing some good effect. And one more condition I used to see that I have not mentioned here is many a time the patient will be getting dyspneic attacks. The patient will be feeling breathless. So in such condition, even if he is a child, I will advocate the use of Swasanandam Gulika because the patient needs symptomatic relief. So I will advise to grind the Swasanandam Gulika with honey and beetle juice or ginger juice and apply very small quantity in his tongue. And that will give and some fermentation to the chest, the child will be reduced. So there is many cases we will not be having nor all for what to say about the inhalers or some bronchodilators. No need to go for that initially. So this set of medicines, Vyakryadi, Dashmula Vedatrayam, Talisapatradi Churnam will help you to cross over any remaining Amavastha remaining in the respiratory tract of the child. And to manage hypersensitivity, I will advise Brisol and Cetlin. And regarding Apunarbhava Chikitsa, if you are very sure that there is no Amavastha, now the patient has started eating the food very well. Now he is getting some bela, some Vyadik Shamatva he is there. And slowly he is building up his tissues. Now you can support him with the Kusmanda Rasayana or Chavana Prasha. And another important prayoga which I have copied from one great physician in Kerala called Kunjiraman Vaidya. This Kunjiraman Vaidya is a very great practitioner in Kerala, and in his book Adhunika Roga Bhaishajyam, he is mentioning about a procedure called Haridra Sarpis. He is mentioning that if you take one part of Sarpis, you add quarter part of Haridra into that, mix it well, give in the morning, and all these recurrent type of infections happening in the upper respiratory tract or recurrent skin allergy, all these will be getting subsided. But this prayogam should be done only when there is no ama inside the body. Typical Nirama phase, when the patient is having some dryness inside the body, patient is coughing now, patient is sneezing now only because of dryness, you are very sure. Now you have to diagnose it as Nirama Avastha and you can give Haridra Sarpis as an option finally. I will usually do the first step, the next step as this Brisol and Cetlin, etc. The third step as Kusmanda Rasayana or Chavana Prasha, and the final step as the Haridra Sarpis with the Sarpi you can select. That Indugandham Gridam is a very good immunomodulatory formulation. Vadamaya Kshaya Mahodara Gulma Sula Nimnonnada Jwaraharam Belavarthanamsa. See the yogam Nimnonnada Jwaraharam. That is, it is very effective for Vishama Jwara as well as this Punaravarta Jwara. It will break the chain for sure. I am very sure it will break the chain. It will make the Dhadu Shasta. So to create Shasta Dhadu in a child's body, to normalize the excessive influence of kapha, for all that you can give Haridra Sarpis. His formulation is like that: for 1 unit of Grida, you can have a quarter of Haridra. So for that, you have to entrust the patient's mother, the child's mother, that you have to collect good organically cultivated Haridra. That will give you wonders. It's a very good preparation, very good combination, simple. You can mix it. Every child will take it. It is having good taste also. So that's regarding the children's problems. Next slide, sir. So in adults, the presentations may be. So in adult also, this recurrent acute respiratory infections will be coming to your clinic at times when you are sitting for the first time also. Especially if you are living in a place where not much other doctors are there, that adults will be presenting with a cough, dyspnea, fever, lethargy, etc. See, the term dyspnea is very important. Dyspnea is breathlessness inappropriate to the level of physical exertion. See, some patient will be telling you they are having some breathless. Only to say that your clinic is there in the upper stair, they are climbing it very fast, then you are getting breathless. It's not dyspnea. So you should be very carefully questioning what is the presentation. how long you can walk without getting dyspneic, without getting breathless. You have to quantify it in the first consultation itself. I am underlining that if the patient is complaining of breathless, you have to be very quite sure that after how much activity she or he is getting breathless. Simply standing up, going to another room, making her breathless, it's a very important condition. You have to deal it in a very careful way. So this might be the presentation you might be looking into. Next slide, sir. Next slide, sir. Yes. Mostly seen in an obese lady, maybe coming you with a hypothyroidism, telling of these complaints. An old age male will be coming to you. He might be a chronic smoker. And young sedentary IT engineer is coming to you because of no exercise to his body. He's simply telling that some cough is there. He's sitting from the morning down to evening in an AC room, and he's having all those sort of stresses, deadlines, etc. Eating those hamburgers, hot dogs, etc. He'll be telling the same condition that I am having recurrent cough, respiratory infection. Sometimes I am feeling breathless likewise. And those who live in high pollution cities. Now we are getting cases like that from Delhi, etc., who are coming back with after lot. They are telling of recurrent respiratory infections. See, recurrent upper respiratory infection in a children, you can connect it with such all clinical conditions I have already told. But in the case of an adult, it can be a serious disorder. See, usually this interstitial lung disease, it's a very serious disorder where the lung is getting fibrosed. So in such conditions, they are also presenting many a times as recurrent upper respiratory infection. So you should be very careful. You have to read the differential diagnosis of all those clinical disorders from a simple clinical medicine textbook and start to practice. And next slide, sir. See, in adults, the causes may be simply that maybe an asthmatic attack, recurrent upper respiratory infections, that is the presentation. Sorry, I have written in the second one as that. And then COPD, bronchitis, and it may be a neoplasm or an interstitial lung disease. I'm not writing a complete list here. I'm telling you what usually seen. See, when I am telling you about neoplasm, the presentation is very, very typical that a patient is coming to you telling that he is very lethargic, he cannot work well, he has crossed his middle age, and he is telling that he is having some weight loss. You can simply see it. A shirt which he is worn is out of size. So you should ask whether this is your shirt or not, and he is telling, yes, I am now getting wasted. And you have to question him continuously. What type of sputum is coming up? Is there any bloody streak in the sputum? And many a time the patient will not be telling that, and unless and until you question, he will be reveal the history of recurrent hemoptysis. Necessarily, you have to take a chest X-ray and to find out a bronchogenic carcinoma. See, many a time the patient has reached you. Many a time this happens in the clinic. If you are a young practitioner, such patients will be coming to you to get some ashwagandha or belarishtam to get nourishment. They are thinking that simply they are getting lethargic. They are chronic smokers. So they are getting day by day wasted. They simply want some arishtam from an Ayurvedic pharmacy that they might be coming to you. You will be diagnosing it as bronchogenic carcinoma and saving the life of patient. So somebody coming to you with a respiratory problem and lethargy, never write ashwagandha or belarishtam, simply the patient wants. Examine the patient, investigate the patient, find it out. So these may be the causes: asthma, COPD, bronchitis, neoplasm, and can be interstitial lung disease. Next slide, sir. And on examination, I will tell you, read the relevant examination textbook you have. Do it in an order. Inspect the chest. Definitely, you have to. If the patient is complaining about dyspnea, etc., you have to undress the patient. Examine the chest. Look for expansion, the proper expansion of the chest, whether it is happening or not. Inspect the aliquinaceae, the muscles which are seen at the nasal opening, sternocleidomastoid region. Palpate for chest expansion and percuss it. Auscultate in a proper way. Don't miss the back auscultation. Many a time you have to we have to be very sure that the major space of inferior lung field, the lower lung fields are turned towards the back. So you have to auscultate the back in a proper way. Then you will be getting a lot of results rather than auscultating in the front. Especially this is very good for auscultating the females. So all these you need to examine. The next slide, sir. And your finding is inadequate expansion of the lung. You ask the patient to breathe good, open your mouth, breathe. Then you can see there is inadequate expansion, maybe COPD. Prominent aliquin AC and sternocleidomastoid muscles. There you can get the patient is perpetually dyspneic. Another one important presentation by COPD patient, you just note it, type it in Google, you will get a photo, pursed lip breathing. Mostly you have learned it in your Roga Nidhanam class and might have asked for that in Viva OC. You might be remembering the question. The regular question in many of the Viva OC is pursed lip breathing. Pursed lip breathing is seen in COPD. Some cyanosis will be there. And on auscultation, you have received wheezing notes. There is mucus discharge with the bronchospasm. You are very quite sure that inside the chest, there is excessive mucus discharge. Excessive bronchospasm is there. That's why you are getting musical notes as wheezing. So you should examine in such a way. I have just noted a very brief examination protocol because I want to elaborate on the Ayurvedic aspect. Next one, you can make your own examination perfect each and every time. Read regularly. And for adults, my prescription is the same Krimihara yogas in the initial phase. See, for adults, the same Krimihara yogas are utilized in the initial phase. Why? Why? Because all these conditions, I have not written a slide dedicated for the pathological summary. Why? Because now itself you are very clear about that. The patient is in a Kaphavada stage. The patient is having some Jwara. The patient is having Swasa. The patient is having Kasa. You can regularly, so you can simply source the medicine from all these chapters. So before sourcing that medicine, directly going down to Swasa Kasa Chikitsa, it's better to use for single week, you have to give this Nirgundyadi Kashayam or Vidal Veradi or Vidanga Krishnadi Kashayam for prior Dibana Pajana. Dibana Pajana is very important in such conditions. And if cough is there with a fever of Kaphavada origin, prefer Vyakradi Kashayam. And if the cough is there with some systemic features like flank pain, the patient is telling for every breath, I am getting a pain in the flank. It's better to opt for the Dasimula Gadatrayam Kashayam in such condition rather than Vyakradi Kashayam. Why? Because Vyakradi is very much localized. The Dasimula Gadatrayam is very much having systemic level of operation. That means even the back pain, even the neck pain, etc. will be cured by the Dasimula Gadatrayadi Kashayam. So if the patient is telling some headache, some flank pain, some abdominal pain, some low back pain, etc. along with this condition, definitely opt for the Dasimula Gadatrayam Kashayam added with fortified with the honey. Then if some Pittani Bandhitvam is there, see in the initial phase I will prefer either the Krimihara Yoga plus Vyakradi Kashayam or the Dasimula Gadatrayadi Kashayam. In the next phase I will opt for when the wheezing has totally subsided. See, along with that, I will tell you one thing. Along with Vyakradi Kashayam, Dasimula Gadatrayadi Kashayam, 2 Guliga yogas I also prefer. If there is fever, if there is more wheezing, more Kaphavadiya condition, I will opt for Surya Prabha Guliga. And if there is more dyspnea, the patient says I am getting severely breathless sometimes, I will opt for Swasanandam. Swasanandam is having good bronchodilatory action, good Amavajana action. Surya Prabha also is having, but Swasanandam is compared to Surya Prabha, it is having more bronchodilation. So that's why if the patient is dyspneic, it's good to opt for Swasanandam tablet. And if the patient is more feverish, more chest infection is there, it's good to opt for this Surya Prabha tablet. And also, along with the Surya Prabha, you can use this Vyakradi Kashayam or the Dasimula Gadatrayadi Kashayam fortified with the Surya Prabha tablet or Swasanandam tablet. And also, if the patient is having severe dyspnea, a severe variety of cough, the patient feels that I am having heaviness of the chest. Patient sometimes present with both these together. My suggestion is, if you want to get good results, you can opt for Arishta preparation also. So for example, Vasharishtam, Kanagasavam. It's a good combination. All of you might be knowing. And I will be fortifying this Vasharishtam Kanagasavam with the Kasturi Kalparasana. One pharmacy called Day Pharmacy is preparing it, I think. Kasturi Kalparasanam, it is a very good bronchodilator. So adding Kasturi Kalparasanam 1 or 2 teaspoons to 1 ounce of this Vasharishtam Kanagasavam, giving it every 5th hourly or every 6 hours a day. It will give good bronchodilatory effect, good expectoratory action, good comfort to the patient. So I have written only Vyakradi Dashmuragadatrayam. Along with that, write Surya Prabha, Swasananda, Vasharishtam, Kanagasavam, Kasturi Kalparasana. These are all effective preparations in the acute Amavastha of asthma, of COPD, of some interstitial lung disease or anywhere. So you can faithfully employ these drugs in Amavastha. If Amavastha is closed, see a patient coming to you with COPD, he is having recurrent abuse of nicotine. Nowadays, we have learned this Vadiga, Paitiga, Kabaja Kasa, and after that you have learned Kshada Kasa. See, Kshada Kasa in good olden days, it was just like, I used to tell that Kshada Kasa happens in some persons like that Bahubali cinema, you might be remembering. That villain called Bellal Devan is there. He used to exercise with an ox, a very powerful ox. Coming to him, he is exercising with that. While doing such sahasa in our chapter, it is mentioned that persons will be getting Kshadakasa. So the Kshadakasa has been described as a macro trauma happening to chest. But in a modern era, there is a repeated micro trauma happening to chest, that is nothing other than the cigarette smoking, the direct smoking or passive smoking. Repeated micro injury happening to your bronchial epithelium. So that can also be considered as Kshadagasam. So in the first phase, if Amapajana has been completed, now it is the second phase. You can manage the Kshada or inflammatory pocket that I will be telling. The Kshada, when you hear the term Kshada, you have to remember the sloka of Kshadagasa, wherein Acharya says that Yuthadi Sahase Taitei Sevide Rayadhabalam Urasyanda Kshade Vayo Pittena Anugado Beli. See, Pitta is accompanying the Vada in creating Kshadagasa. So, in case of micro trauma also, as in the case of cigarette smoking, the patient is getting micro trauma. The patient is having predominance of Vada there associated with Pitta. So, in such a condition, wherein Amavastha has been crossed, it is better to go for Elaganadi Gashayam. Elaganadi Gashayam fortified with its own membody called Lakshadi Churna. So, if you use Elaganadi Gashayam, use it with its own fortified Lakshadi Churna. If cough persists, some Pitta predominance is there, it will work wonder. And also, I have got one important observation to you, that initially the patient came to you with wheezing. Now, after using that Nirgundiyadi, Vidal Veradi, or Vilanga Krishnadi, or Vyakradi Gashayam, Dasimura Gatrayadi Gashayam, Surya Prabha Guliga, Swasananda Guliga, Kasturi Kalparasanam along with Vasharishtam, Kanagasavam, the wheezing notes will be changing to some hoarse repetition sounds. Every time the patient takes an inspiration, you will get some hoarse crepitation. If you are getting hoarse crepitations, I used to assume that many of the mucosal, excessive mucus discharge and the bronchospasm is now relieved and some Vada predominance is seen inside the chest cavity. So the hoarse crepitations many a time denotes some Vada, the presence of Vada inside the chest cavity, and if some Pitta predominance is noted. How you can see the Pitta predominance? Ask the patient the color of sputum. The patient says, mostly it was in the earlier time, it was very much sticky, very much yellowish. Now it becomes loose sputum and sometimes frothy. Sometimes there will be presence of yellowishness. And the patient feels some burning sensation in the eyes or some reddishness in the eyes. He prefers always some cold things, etc. By assessing that, you can tell the patient is having some amount of Pitta predominance inside it. And if the patient is a regular chronic smoker, it's very important to note that you can definitely tell that the patient is having Urasyantakshade Vayu Pitten Anugado Bili, there will be some cryptic pitta coupled with Vada in that condition. So it's very good to start Elaganadi Kashayam. You use Elaganadi Kashayam and find out its goodness along with the Lakshadi Churna. Next slide, sir. And never underestimate here the importance of Vada Pradilomyam in Pakwasyam. See, while mentioning Kasa Chikitsa, Ashtanga Sangraham typically points that many a time the Kasam is happened due to Abhana Vada Dushti. In Ashtanga Sangraham only points to such an important reference. So the Kasa is present there, cough is present. Even though many a time you are giving many medication, cough is not going totally relieved, ask the patient the Abhana Vada status. So in such a condition, if the Kasa is persisting, the Swasa is persisting due to some Pradilomium, Vada Pradilomium in Pakwasyam, and if there is not much Rukshada, if no heavy Rukshada is there, you can opt for Belajiragadi, Nayopayam and Raswanadi. See my sentence, there is not much Rukshada. If there is heavy Rukshada, you are assessing that his stools are very harsh, very difficult to pass, give him some Matravasti or Erandadaya. In your daycare practice, you can invite the patient to your clinic for daycare Matravasti, or you can give some Erandadaya. And some Erandadaya, I'm going to be specific, judge the condition just like that of previous, whether to use Gandharvastadi or Sukumar Eranda. Judge between that and give it to the patient. And if there is not much Rukshada, you can opt for a Kashaya Yoga like Belajiraga Viswabda. There is a Kashaya Yoga like that. Nayopayam, Belajiraga Nagari, Kashayam. Then Rasonadi Kashayam, you can opt for all these Kashayams. That will give good Vada and Lavana. Another important area you should not forget is Amashaya Gadavada. See, Amashaya Gadavada, you can get the slogam as follows. Amashaya Tritpamadu Swasa Kasa Vishujiga Kandovarodam Udgaran Vyadhi Notramsa Nakuda. Learn that slogan, apply it in your clinical practice. Whenever you are not getting proper result, test whether the patient is having Amashaya Gadavada. See, previously I have told you about Sandhi Gadavada. That means Vada is localized in a Kaphasthanam called Sandhi. Now you are having Amashaya Gadavada, wherein Vada is again getting localized in a Kaphasthanam called Amashya. Why? The question why signifies that why this Vayu is getting localized, because of some inherent troubles happened in Amashya. So you have to correct the Amashaya Gadavada, and for that Amashaya Gade Vayu Vamida Pradipojide Sukhambuna Shattarnam Vajadim Va Prayojide. They are prescribing Vamana for that. If you can perform a daycare Vamana, see, in such a condition, if you assess Amashaya Gadavadam, you should get Utklesha Dosha. See, for Amashaya Gadavadam, Swasa is told. In that Swasa, if you are asking the patient whether you can just by simply giving a cough, push out some sputum, the patient says, yes, I am having heaviness of chest. If I just have a cough, I am getting a lot of sputum. Such a condition, you can tell that patient is having an Utkleshit Avastha, give a fomentation, ask the patient to come your daycare treatment center, initiate a Vamana, and after that you can have Shaddarna Churnam. If there is not much Utkleshita Dosham, simply by giving Vaishwandra Churnam itself, this Amashaya Gadavadam can be managed. See, you have to be very careful. Why? Because you are operating on Kaphasthanam for Vada. So Vadanalomanam, Kapha stabilization should happen hand to hand. So I used to use Shaddarna Churnam or Vaishwandra Churnam with or without prior Sadhyo Vamanam. Okay, next slide. See, after that, some situations may arise where there is a mild pneumonia. If a mild pneumonia happens, you have to be very sure that you are going to win the situation. If you are having any tension regarding whether the disease will conquer you, ship the patient to a center where you can have some technological support. See, if you want sucking out the sputum, or if you want to give some bronchodilators, inhalators, etc., or if you feel that if you are getting a feel that you cannot manage, or if Daru Nagaradi Kashayam is not available, See, Darunagaradi, I don't think it is available in market. You have to prepare it. The yoga is available in Sahasra Yoga. It has been told that Mrityu Kalpam Jwaram Jayet. Many a time I have seen the use of Darunagaradi Kashayam. When I am studying for my post-graduation in Pariyaram Government Ayurveda Medical College, I have seen Dr. V.K.V. Balakrishnan sir, the professor of Salakya Tantra there. He used to treat the patients with mild pneumonia, even children, with Darunagaradi Kashayam and escaping them. So Darunagaradi is an important formulation you have to learn and you have to prepare it and use it whenever there is pneumonia. I myself has used it for one of my students who got a very mild pneumonia and she always complained that she is having a very great heaviness of chest. So that heaviness of chest was not getting relieved and mild feverishness was there and she was not getting relieved in spite of using this Dasmolagadtrayadi or Vyakrayadi. Instead, when I shifted to Darunagaradi, within 3 or 4 days, immediately the heaviness of chest was relieved. So I am very confident that most of the mild pneumonias you can battle with this combination called Darunagaradi. And also I prefer, that's for that particular condition. And during the acute, when the acute phase is over, likewise in children, here also the patient will start to exhibit mucosal hypersensitivity, especially if the infection was a viral one. See, the post-viral mucosal hypersensitivity. Many of the viral diseases are having this. So for that hypersensitivity, I used to give Decamol cup syrup or Coflet sugar-free cup syrup. See, in Swasa, Kasa, etc., many a time, the patient is coming to you and telling the problem. You are going to write a prescription. Suddenly the patient tells that I am a heavily diabetic person taking insulin injection. So many of the prescriptions will not be opted in such a condition. So for that, sugar-free cup syrups are available. You have to use it whenever there is mucosal hypersensitivity. So the point starting from Decamol cup syrup, it is indicated for that phase where Amavastha is totally relieved, where the patient start to cough, having dry cough, and when he sits just below the fan, just below the AC, just exposed to the wind, etc., when he starts getting cough, there you have to use Decamol cough syrup. There are patients who exhibit mucosal hypersensitivity in the early hours of morning. They used to tell that by 3 o'clock, 2 o'clock, they start to wake up with a severe cough, not getting relieved even with any medication. So I will advise this Decamol cough syrup or Coflet sugar-free. They are getting good relief and they can go back to sleep. And Brisol syrup, as I have indicated previously for children, here also it is also doing good beneficial results. And these are indicated for post-fever mucosal hypersensitivity. Next slide, sir. And after symptom reduction, you have to give Apunarbhava Chikitsa. See, when the symptom is reduced, you stop the medication. Patient is allowed to go around as he like. What happens is that he will return back with the same problem again. He start to eat whatever he wants. He is getting exposed to cold wind, cold water, etc. He will come back to you. So if in the initial phase, if absolute eosinophil count is high, immunoglobulin count is high, surely you have to consider the treatment of Visha, Visarpa, etc. Here, underline that word. I used to tell my students, Visha and Visarpa, it's very important. The treatment of Visha and Visarpa should be utilized for reducing AEC and immunoglobulin E count. See, the patient tells you recurrent upper respiratory infection or recurrent attacks of dry cough. He is not freed of these respiratory symptoms anytime in the anytime in a year. Especially, he will be getting cure only when there is good summer, and after when the rains or in the winter season he is getting heightened attacks. You have to start the treatment of Visha and Visarpa. For that, I used to give Neeli Tulasyadi Kashayam and Amrita Vrisha Padoladi Kashayam. See, Neeli Tulasyadi is mentioned somewhere, both I think, the Amrita Vrisha Padoladi is especially mentioned in Visarpa Chikitsa. Neeli Tulasyadi also is mentioned there. Then Haridra Gandham is a good combination. Now it is getting repacked or relabeled as Alarkhand tablet. It is also having good result, good control over this allergic repetitive cough and sneezing, repetitive asthma, etc. And for Apunarbhava Chikitsa, you have to employ Agastya Rasayana. Agastya Rasayanam is a very good formulation. for controlling the repetitive attacks. Usually, I used to tell the patient, have Nili Tulasiyadi or Amrutavrsha Padoladi. I will write Amrutavrsha Padoladi if he is having some more Pitta symptoms, Pitta oriented symptoms or Rakta oriented symptoms. I will write Amrutavrsha Padoladi or Nili Tulasiyadi Kashayam. I advise them to use at least for 3 bottles, 3 continuous weeks. You have to drink this Kashayam along with Alarkand or Haridra Kandam. And after that, if I am very quite sure that all the Amavastha has been counteracted, the patient feels dryness inside, his acne as well, I will opt for Agastya Rasayanam. See, Agastya Rasayanam is a yogam which clarifies the Rasadhatu. See, its initial indication is Valeha, Palidani, etc. It is Vali, Palita, Haram. It's not mentioned for a chest condition, but Agastya Rasayanam is very much good. In Ashtangam Ayurveda Vidyapitham, in which I work, I asked the pharmacy people to prepare the classical Agastya Rasayanam for us. So what is the difference between classical Agastya Rasayanam and marketed Agastya Rasayanam is, in marketed Agastya Rasayanam, this Haridagi is being grounded and is incorporated in the Rasayanam itself for increasing the shelf life. But in classical Agastya Rasayanam, the Haridagi is available as fruits itself. See, the fruit is lying inside the lehyam. The Haridagi fruit is lying inside the lehyam. And the dosage is as fixed in Chara Samhita, either 1 fruit along with the 1 pala of lehyam. So I will advise the patient to take Agastya Rasayanam in such a way by preparing it in classical way. See, I am getting dramatic increase in the result when you prepare it in classical way. And sometimes you can add this preservative to increase the shelf life also if you want. But many a time, even without shelf life, this can remain in a very secluded place. If you place it, it will remain so for 1 month. This preparation is very much wonderful. During the annual seminars happening in SNA, Aushadasala, many of you are be going one important day called Unnimus Dinam. One important Vaidya from southern part of Kerala is visiting that part. His name is Arumanur Parameswaran. And I have heard him speaking about this Agastya Rasayanam in classical form. And after that, I started using it in classical form and I am vouching its results. It is totally Apunarbhavagaram. This patient will be totally relieved. And again, Haridra Sarpis with Indugandham Gradam or Rasna Dashamulam Gradam, I will be preferring in this situation. Haridra Sarpis should be your main important tool in this 3rd phase of managing recurrent acute respiratory infections. Next slide, sir. Next slide, sir.
Sir, can we stop here, sir?
Yeah, the last one, sir. Last one. So this is the asthma eczema syndrome. The only thing, the only 2 slides, just now I will be concluding it. Many a patient will be having asthma eczema syndrome coming to you. When you suppress the upper respiratory infection, the patient will be presenting with a skin disease. When you suppress the skin disease, the patient will come back to with the Pranavaha Srotas. So there is a shifting of the dosha from Pranavaha Srotas to Rasavaha Srotas and back to back, resulting in eczematic skin lesion in one part and asthma and upper respiratory infection in other part. If such a history is known and if you are treating the patient for correcting the recurrent upper respiratory infection, start Eladi, Nalpamaradi or Neeridaladi Thailam prior to getting attack. Many a time this attack happens shift to skin only when the skin is becoming excessively dry. So prevent the dryness of skin, increase the bela or Vyadikshamatva of skin. So start prior application of Eladi or Nalpamaradi. Just one more slide, sir. So to prevent the eczematic shift, you can give along with the Amrutavarsha Padoladi or Nili Tulasiyadi, you can opt for Punarnamadi or Padola Gadroviniadi with Dushi Vishadi and Vilyadi. And in between, you have to definitely prescribe Virejana with Trivartlehium or Avivati Churnam. And if skin lesions start, assess the degree of Pitta Kapha involvement and treat. That I will tell you in the next class, if possible. Next slide, sir. I'm stopping it here. I got one more topic for you. I have recorded, but I will take it in the next class that is related to plantar pain. So today we have finished knee pain and recurrent upper respiratory infection. My submission to you is to just go back, read thoroughly by using two type of approach. One approach you read modern totally, another approach you read Ayurveda totally. Study medicines in a good way, start application and find out the results. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Rahul. One second. Yeah, only a good teacher can, forget the time when teaching. And of course, Dr. Rahul is Dr. Rahul teaches so
Thank you, sir.
passionately that I don't have the heart to stop them. Of course, we have no time for questions today, but I will allow only one question, that is from Dr. Arjunan, who's raising his hand now. Just last one question, after which we will be posting Dr. Rahul's number in that groups, WhatsApp group, so that all the questions can be answered by him directly. So please respect this time. Please send the message in WhatsApp, and he should be able to give you a proper answer afterwards. So Dr. Arjunan, you may ask your question. Dr. Arjunan, hello.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So the patient suffering from chronic asthma, which kalpana is best for asthma or the gulika or kashayam?
Which kalpana you are asking?
Yes, sir.
Chronic asthma. Hello.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Chronic asthma. See, in chronic repetitive asthma, there are two phases. One is an attack phase. The next one is an indolent phase, wherein the patient is having no attacks. So in between attack phase, you have to start those medicines which can prevent further attacks. So you have to diagnose if he is having a kapha predominant vada, then go for Vyakradi Kashayam, and you can give some mucosal hypersensitivity reducing drugs like Brisol syrup. And during attacking phase, you have to start counteract the attacks by giving this Swasananda Guliga, Vasharishtam, Kasturi Kalparasayanam, and Kanagasava. See, that simply speaking, that will be working. You may try.
Okay, sir, that's the last of the question that we'll be taking today. We have only 4 minutes left. Thank you all for participating. We will post Dr. Rahul's number, so you can ask all the questions that you have put in the chat. There were a lot of questions, Dr. Rahul. Of course, the topic is so deep that we need more time to, go through all the topics. So, since today we don't have that much time, we'll be stopping now. Thank you, Dr. Rahul, for a wonderful session. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, we'll be ending the class now. Thank you. So what next? Tomorrow we have statutory requirements in clinical practice and healthcare quality management. If you are interested in starting a new clinic, if you have any legal issues, whatever legal issues that you might have to face when you are having a clinic of your own, especially in the private sector, Dr. Indujudan is the right person to answer all those questions. So tomorrow, if you are interested in opening a clinic, and if you are already having a clinic and you need to know the legal details of how it should be run, Dr. Indujudan will be here tomorrow to answer all those questions. I have to thank my team, Dr. Srinath Warrior, Dr. Shabana Balshyam, Dr. Rahul J, Dr. Veena P. Raghunathan, Dr. Anisa S. Ashraf, Dr. Anusha Shaji, Dr. Rajashree TR, Dr. Pooja and Dr. Fatimat KK for supporting us with the program. Thank you all for participating. If you have any suggestions or questions, please contact me in the number below. Please let your friends and colleagues know about this class so that everyone can benefit. My number is 960-550-9999. Your mistakes do not define you. Just understand that. Let us all grow together. See you all tomorrow. Thank you and good night. Thank you, Dr. Rahul. Thank you.